Welcome back, everybody. We just got off a show, Nick and I, and now we're back doing another show. We're going back to back. Nick, you know what I must say? Doing a show with you, it just brings me back to the circa 2011 days when we'd go in my mom's basement, eat some chicken palm wedges, and talk to Omar Minaya. I still had this is the same mic too.
I know.
Same hair. You know,
I hope nobody finds any of those videos from back then.
Yeah.
We'll be in trouble.
Yeah, no, those have been acid washed. You cannot find them.
And now I'm doing it in Luca's bedroom. This is my new studio. I've come a long way.
But yeah, welcome everyone to Overtime with Nick and Frankie at uSTADIUM. Overtime will feature Nick Spano and Frankie V. That's me of the uSTADIUM.com network. We will be live every Thursday after Timeout with uSTADIUM, which airs from 6 to 7 p.m. We'll go live around 7:30 or 8. We'll have reporters on. We'll have athletes on. I'm trying to get Bobby Wagner to come on. We will have coaches on. So we'll go into our network and we're going to get a lot of interviews done over the next, hopefully, 2 or 3 months. If you have any questions that you want shown on the air, like this guy is posting right here, Mr. South Park, you can go on the YouTube uSTADIUM, Twitch uSTADIUM, or on Periscope. We're live on Twitter right now, and you can post your questions and we'll air them during the show. If you want to join the show and come live with us, we'll send you a link. Make sure you shave. I haven't shaved. Yeah. Nick, you got to shave, bro.
I'm clean, baby.
Yeah, I'm not looking too hot these days. I don't know what's wrong with me, but yeah, but we'll
you're good.
Yeah, I might pull an Evan Roberts, just do the show with like a mask. I have a double mask now, though, apparently.
Oh, yeah,
so
that's true.
CDC just came out with guidelines. You have to wear 2 masks.
You won't get COVID, but we can't promise that you won't stop breathing because of the 2 masks. So
yeah, I have trouble breathing anyway, so it's okay. But yeah, let's dive right into it. So this show will be airing at 7:30 on Thursdays, and it'll be a little bit Jets heavy, but we're going to try to incorporate other topics around the NFL. And let's dive right into it.
Let's see.
So as has been reported all last week by us at uSTADIUM, and now Adam Schefter finally got hold of this news, even though he doesn't give us any credit for it. The Jets are getting calls about our quarterback or our ex-quarterback. It seems like Sam Darnold. Yeah. Adam Schefter has mentioned the Indianapolis Colts, the Washington football team, the Carolina Panthers, and possibly the San Francisco 49ers as some trade destinations for the former 3rd overall pick, Sam Darnold. Nick, what is a realistic deal that you see happening, and what are the Jets going to get in return, and do you think this is going to happen soon?
Yeah, I think so. Like, I'm not surprised at the teams that Schefter mentioned. You know, basically, yeah, we all could have guessed it. I mean, it's the teams that missed out on Stafford, probably aren't going to, pay what the Eagles want for Carson Wentz, and then it moves on to Sam Darnold. So, like you said, Washington, Carolina, Indy, San Francisco, probably the Bears will be in there. But, I think in terms of a Sam Darnold deal, he's a little more – obviously, he doesn't have, like, the track record that Carson Wentz has, good or bad. Doesn't have the injury issue, which is a plus, and he's not, coming along with that huge contract, which, Carson Wentz is. So when you look at the Eagles, or you look at what the Rams traded for Stafford, the 2 future ones, the 3rd and Jared Goff, the Eagles are trying to get something similar for Wentz. They're probably not going to be able to. It looks like the Colts were offering 2 2s and a mid-round pick. I think the Jets, even though Schefter says they might be able to get a late one, I think all along, I was told that it's most likely going to be a 2nd and either a 4th or a 5th, or maybe a 2nd this year and a 4th that could become a 3rd next year based on hitting certain incentive marks. So I think that is what I'm, obviously as Jet fans, we want to get as much as we can. We want that 1st round pick, right? Give us 3, give us more ammo to go to the Texans with for a potential, Deshaun Watson trade, or use those picks along with a quarterback at 2 to get a receiver, some lineman, an edge rusher, whatever. I still think it's going to be a 2 and a let's call it a 4 that could become a 3rd for Darnold. And I think they're going to want to do it relatively soon. You don't want this dragging. I think we're like 35-ish days into until free agency. If Wentz, even though it seemed like Wentz's trade was going to be announced this week, I think it got really hot like early last weekend before the Super Bowl. And then everybody kind of went back to their corner and said, okay, well, the Eagles aren't taking this 2 2s or a 2+. We don't want to give this 1. The Eagles are really sitting on this, waiting for a 1. I think that's where we're at right now. And then it's going to be up to either the Eagles to blink or a team to say, fine, let's screw it. Let's do a 1, maybe throw in some players, to make the contracts a little bit more, easy to swallow.
Let me ask you a question, though. Do you think that if a team gets desperate enough going into the offseason, let's say you're Washington or you're Indy and you don't get Carson Wentz, you obviously, let's say, don't get Deshaun Watson. You're not drafting high enough to really maybe get the quarterback you're looking for in this draft. Do you then, as Joe Douglas, go to these teams that are like, hey, Washington, you want to roll with Alex Smith or Indy? Who are you going to roll with? So Jacoby, so where are you going to go? Yeah. And is then at that point a late first, not necessarily a dream scenario like our man Lou Davio said, shout outs, but it's actually a realistic scenario because you have a team like Indy that's in win now mode, and they're basically a quarterback away from maybe making a run.
Yeah, I think that's like the best case scenario for Douglas, and that's probably what he's going to wait to do, right? Like he was able to get all these first rounders and other picks for Jamal Adams because he didn't react to Adams. He let the best deal come to him and he jumped on it. So yeah, I mean, even if it is like, let's say Washington with 19 or the Colts, I think they're at 21 or whatever they may be. And they offer that 1. It looks like the Colts aren't in the business of offering a 1. They didn't for Stafford. They're not for Wentz.
Yeah, I don't think they will. No.
They're trying to hold on to that. So maybe if it's, Washington, I don't think Carolina is going to offer up the 8. I think they're picking 7th or 8th. I don't think that'll be in play. But let's say the Niners at 12 or Washington at 19, maybe they offer that pick and the Jets send along a 3rd or a 4th rounder with Darnold so that they, it's basically you're jumping like 40 picks, to get Darnold, or you're falling back 40-ish picks to get Darnold, and you're at least getting something back as well. So you're not just giving up the 1. I could see that definitely happening. I think just at the end of the day, it's going to be a straight up 2 and a 4th rounder that's going to get it done, whether that 4th is this year or next year. So I think that's what everybody will settle on. But I mean, it could definitely happen. Like you said, if a team like Washington is they get nervous and they missed out on all these guys, and it's either they're sitting there at 19 and they don't love Kyle Trask from Florida, and it's going to cost a lot more than a 1 to move up to get either, let's say, Trey Lance, Justin Fields, Mac Jones, Zach Wilson. All those guys are going to be off the board by the time the Washington picks at 19. So they may say, all right, we like Darnold a lot more than we like Trask. He's still 23 years old, still 2 years away from a payday. Let's do it. Let's give 19. Let's get their 3rd round pick back. We have our quarterback, and let's fill out, the rest of our roster around him because we feel like we can win the NFL East with Sam Darnold and make some noise in the playoffs. So
and I think a lot of people need to realize too, I think that timing here is huge. You have the draft coming up. You have Watson who's looking to get traded. You have deadlines with roster franchise tags. Roster bonuses, workout bonuses, a bunch of money's being kicked in and thrown around soon. You don't want to mindlessly go into the offseason without a plan. I do think, and I'm sure you agree, the Jets are going to trade Sam Darnold. And Brent Lavitch just posted. And guys, make sure you like the stream and you subscribe to the YouTube live channel. So make sure you throw that thumbs up.
Cost you nothing.
Yeah, my thumb looks small here. What the? Oh my God, I don't like looking at my hand.
You got the crooked thumb or no? Oh no, that's a crooked finger.
I can't make a fist, everyone. That's me trying to make a fist. Yeah, that's what happens when you fall playing football in high school and you freaking jam your finger. Look,
the Torrey Holt finger.
Oh my God, please. Listen, yeah, you might think Darnold sucks, but other teams don't. I mean, they're calling the Jets. I am surprised a bit at the demand for Darnold. Nick had reported on this about 10 or so days ago, but he was saying that teams were going to call it the Jets looking to trade for Darnold. I believe the report, but I didn't think the interest would really be there at this point. So it's good. It's good. If you're a Jets fan, it's a good thing that we're getting this demand for Darnold, because even if we get out of this with a second-round pick, it's better than a third and a fourth, which is at a point what I thought Darnold might have even gone for. So you're getting some value, and it's good for what we're trying to build moving forward.
Yeah. And even Schefter said, like, there could be a scenario where there's, and I think this is a little high, but 18 teams are going to be starting a new quarterback this year than they did in the 2020 season. So there's going to be a lot of moving pieces. You already saw a Stafford trade really early. You're seeing this Wentz movement. Then it's going to be a Darnold. Then what are the Niners going to do with Garoppolo? What is Vegas going to do? Are they going to keep Carr and trade Mariota to like the Patriots or something? So you're going to see like it's going to be a domino effect, and it's going to happen really fast. So we're kind of just waiting in flux right now for the Wentz trade. I think a lot of people thought it was going to happen earlier this week. I did. I thought it would have been announced like Monday or Tuesday after the Super Bowl, but it seems like the Eagles are holding out for that first-round pick, and they might not be getting it right now. So I think once you do see that, then the Jets can take a step back and say, all right, this is what he went for. Come to us. Like, let's go. Let's start this. Let's start the bidding for Darnold, and then I was told that Darnold is most likely going to be traded. It's going to happen when the Jets finish their evaluations of the number 2 pick and where the quarterbacks are, whether it is Wilson or Fields or obviously the Watson situation. So I don't think it's going to be something where Wentz gets traded, let's say today, and the Jets go out tomorrow and trade Darnold. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think it's going to happen once the Jets brass, the front office and scouts, they finish their evaluation. They say, okay, we like quarterback X. We feel comfortable picking him too. Or obviously the Watson trade. Now we can move Darnold and start stockpiling more picks.
Yeah. I think that makes total sense. We had said that about a week ago too, that they're going to have to do their diligence on that second pick, because if you have a guy like Zach Wilson, who a lot of fans like, I tend to fall more on the the Justin Fields. Landry Fields, man.
Oh, boy.
I never did that in my head on the Justin Fields bandwagon a little bit because I like that gamer. We'll talk about that later, though. Nick and I will go back and forth about Zach Wilson. He's Team Zach. I'm Team Justin. But we'll get into that in a little bit. But, yeah, let's just get right into Deshaun Watson. And at 8 p.m., we have our man John McClain of the Houston Chronicle, top Texans NFL reporter, will be joining OT with Nick and Frankie. And he'll be coming on and answering our questions. I'm going to ask him a funny question at the end, too, so you may want to stick around.
Light.
Yeah. I've heard a lot about the Houston food scene, so I got to see if this guy has the intel for me, because I was thinking about taking a little trip down there. But, Nick, what is the chance that the Jets get Deshaun Watson? Let's be direct. On a 1 to 100% chance, 100% he's coming, 1% there is virtually no shot. What do you give it right now?
I mean, I'm just going to give it a 20% chance, just because so much has to happen. And then you have to, Douglas has to give the right, package of draft picks to Houston. Then he's got to say, okay, I'm going to go play here. There'll be a ton of other teams in the hunt. If it comes down to strictly who can put the best offer on the table for the Texans draft pick wise, then it's way higher than 20. I think the Jets move in to the driver's seat in terms of what they can offer them. Everything else, encapsulated, and we'll ask John this when he joins us at 8. Like, is there really this 4 to 5 team list that people say? Are the Jets really on it? Are the Dolphins on it? Are the Texans 100% going to trade him, and when? Because if a team goes out there and they, decide to pick up a free agent quarterback and, when free agency starts, like, let's say, I don't know, Cam, nobody's going to sign probably as a starter, but let's say Teddy Bridgewater is traded, or, Derek Carr, Jameis Winston, those guys land somewhere, that takes a few teams out of it. And then the Jets move up a little bit on the list, or, Miami makes a few moves to, help Tua out, play more into his style, and it knocks them out. Then that 20% goes up. Or if the Jets can't find a trade partner for Darnold and they decide to stick with him, obviously that takes him out. So there's a lot that goes into it. I was told that there's something that the Jets organization doesn't sit perfectly with Watson, and that might be a reason why they're not high. I was not able to get into anything further what it could possibly be. I have a few ideas of what it could be. I mean, I don't want to speculate. We could do it off air and I'll tell you about it, but I just don't want to, speculate in terms of that. But I do think that, let's say the Jets are able to come to a deal and they offer the number 2 pick plus other ones and the Texans like it, and they go to Watson, the Texans, Texans go to him and say, hey, we have a deal with the Jets. It's us or them. Go, are you going there or not? How bad do you want out? I think he would okay the trade and then he'd come here, obviously, but there's a lot of different variables that are in the way of a trade right now, obviously. And you're talking about like a top 3 quarterback in football. It's so hard for a team to move on from him. But if they say, all right, we're not going to do this any longer, we're trading this guy, then that jumps to, I think the Jets, could be at 40%. But right now on February 11th, it's just got to be at 20%. I don't want to, you don't want to get your hopes up and say, hey, like, the Jets are rumored everywhere from every former player, blah, blah, blah. I don't buy too much into that. But I think if they say we're going to trade him and we're talking draft compensation, I think the Jets are definitely, if not the favorite, one of the favorites.
Nick, I was surprised by that from you. I was very surprised. I was as surprised as last time we hung out. You were having a chicken salad, but you had no chicken in there. So I was like, what the hell's going on over here?
I ate the chicken first.
Yeah.
Then it just becomes a salad.
Yeah, I've never seen you just eat a salad without anything else in there. That's always a chicken salad. I mean, it's not really just a salad. Like, who just, but
Not
But I think it's higher. I think it's higher than 20%. I think given Robert Saleh, given the fact that Deshaun has connections in New York, given the fact that the Jets have the draft capital needed, and I think it's a fresh start. I think New York's starting to get a little bit of its swag back as a city. Deshaun, if you follow him on Instagram, he likes big cities. He goes to Paris in the offseason. He goes to Rome. Mm-hmm. He likes that lifestyle. New York's like that when it's post this pandemic. But I just think it's higher. I think it's closer to 40%. I think the Jets are the top, maybe one of the top, 2 or 3 teams that Deshaun's going to land. I don't think he's going to stay in Houston. So I think cross Houston off the list. A report just came out that the Patriots, he doesn't want to go to the Patriots. Where else is really an option? He's going to want to go from Houston to Carolina. Just doesn't really seem like that makes a lot of sense to me. Mm-hmm. I think the 49ers, for him, that would be ideal. I think going to the 49ers, if you're Deshaun, you can't get a better situation than that, talking about on and off the field. So I think that's a perfect spot for him. You're going to get all the support in the world, a run game that can come out and you're going to rush for 200 yards and you don't have to worry about carrying everything on offense, which you'll have to do here with the Jets. But I think it's closer to 40%. But Nick, if the Jets, let's just say we get Watson, so we nail him, and I'm calling it right now, February 15th.
No, it's not going to be that early. No.
Yes. February. No. Remember this, dude. February 15th at 7. No. They always do these late. You ever realize these big signings always happen late? So there can't be a lot of craziness. I remember when Antonio Brown got traded, it was like, 1 a.m. I was like out at the bars. And I
Le'Veon was late at night.
Le'Veon was late. Something. Yeah. Stafford was late. It's always late on like a Saturday or Friday. But yeah, John, I agree. Watson to the Niners would be scary.
Maybe totally. The Jets should make sure to get out in front of it, trade Darnold to the Niners for a lesser package just to take them out of the Watson sweepstakes.
Yeah. But Nick, Jets get Watson. How good will the Jets be? What's our record? We get Watson in a few weeks, or it'll be more like in a month, but we get Deshaun Watson. What's our record? How good do you think the Jets would be? And how do you think he's got the ability to come in and win us that chip finally, bro? Win us that chip. It's been a curse for too damn long.
I don't think right away. I don't think, I think it's going to take a year or two to build up, the pieces around him. I do think if you land a guy like Watson, you become a player in free agency more than you would be, so that means that Allen Robinson is in play, or I don't think Godwin's shaken free from Tampa Bay, but those receivers are going to want to play for him. You're going to get guys on the defensive side of the ball who are going to want to play for a guy like Watson. So I think you become an instant player in free agency if you do get Watson. Obviously, you'll take a little step back in the draft because obviously you're going to be trading, probably 2 or 3 first-round picks, so you won't be able to build as much through the draft, which is still, the Jets will have plenty of picks to do so, especially with a Darnold trade. So I think, I don't think 9-7 is crazy for next year. That's how good Deshaun Watson is. The offensive line is going to improve in free agency for sure. I know for sure the Jets will be going after Joe Thuney hard. Brandon Sheriff, if he shakes free from Washington, I think one of those 2 guys will be a Jet. Then you're going to talk about one of the receivers. If Allen Robinson, if you get Watson, I think there's a good chance that Robinson follows him here, and vice versa. If he goes, if he goes to Chicago or something, and Robinson will stay there. If he goes to San Fran, he might go there, whatever. One of those like NBA package deals. So I think you're talking about a quick turnaround. I don't think it's going to be something where we were 2-14 last year. You go 6-10 next year, then you're talking like hopefully 10-6. I think you go from a 2-14 team, you improve the offense a little bit. Salah's able to get this defense under wraps quick. I think you're talking about a wild card team right away.
Yeah, that's the key. I think with Salah coming in, that defense is going to be
it's going to happen quick. Yep.
Yeah, that defense is going to be stoked to play hard, and that's what defense is about. Yeah. Defense is about playing hard. If you get guys focused, you can make a bad defense into an average or above average one. And when you have Watson coming in and playing quarterback, I mean, you're talking about too from a Jets fan perspective, maybe the best quarterback play that maybe we've ever had. I mean, yeah, it is. Yeah. Maybe the best. I mean,
franchises probably ever had.
Yeah. So
that's what type of move this is, and I can't be, and I hate to be so dramatic.
You're getting excited right now. I can see it. Don't put the camera down, Nick. This is
one of those moments, and it happens where for someone like Joe Douglas, it's a move that, not that he needs to save a job. It's a move that cements you as a GM and cements you as a head coach, because coaches and GMs fail 5 to 6 times a year, every single year, because they can't get that quarterback position right. What happened now is this is it's not even a decade. You don't see this in a decade. It's once every 25 years, a chance to get a guy like a Deshaun Watson at his age, for you to just give up draft picks and be able to bring him in to change your franchise. To your GM, you keep your job an extra 3 years. Your head coach, you're not talking about getting fired in 2-3 years. He's there. He changes everything about your team, the culture. Players want to play for him. The coach looks much better. Mike LaFleur goes and he gets a head coaching job. It'll be fine. You can bring the next coach up who coaches along, who's with Deshaun Watson. It changes everything about your franchise. And for the Jets, who've been looking for a quarterback, starving, trading picks, drafting guys in the top 5, you have a guy who's 25 years old. He's already a top 3 to 5 quarterback in the league. You are in prime position because Joe Douglas maneuvered in a way that he was able to get this diva safety out of here and bring back multiple first-round picks for him. You went for 2-14, got this loser coach out of here, brought in a guy that people like and want to play for. It's the perfect time to make a franchise-altering move. It's going to be very disappointing if, for whatever reason, the Jets don't go balls to the wall and offer whatever they can to get a guy like Watson. If they don't get him because of he doesn't want to come here or whatever, or another team throws an outlandish deal because they have better players that they can offer in a deal, that's one thing. But to not have the Jets go all in would be very disappointing.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. And speaking of perfect time, there is not a more perfect time to get John McClain, Houston Chronicle, top NFL Texans reporter, on the show. John, welcome to OT with Nick and Frankie. We've been very excited to have you on the show, and we're looking forward to all your insights on everything from your experience covering the Texans to what's going on with the Deshaun Watson situation. So we really appreciate having you on.
Guys, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Of course, man. And John, thank you again. It's a crazy time, I'm sure, for you, obviously, with not only Deshaun Watson, but everything going on with Jack Easterby and David Culley, the new coach. We've been listening really to every kind of outlet that you hop on, whether it's Sports Radio 610 in Texas or your articles in the Houston Chronicle. Covered Houston football for 45 years, from the Oilers to like the expansion Texans, which is already like 20 plus years, which is crazy to think.
That's nuts.
So is this moment with Deshaun Watson the craziest kind of moment in Houston football, or is there something that you can think of that tops this one?
Let me ask you guys, if you covered a team in which a player blew out his brains during the season, in that same season, a defensive coordinator threw a punch at the offensive coordinator during a game on ESPN, and another player missed a game because he wanted to be president for the birth of his first child. That season, the 1993 Oilers was the subject of a Football Life on the NFL Network. This offseason, won't be the subject of any Football Lives or 30 for 30. I've been through seasons where people were killed, people drowned. This is not a life and death situation. So, and in this age of social media, everything's a bigger deal.
Mm-hmm.
There's absolutely nothing going on with Deshaun Watson. Texans have said publicly and privately they will not trade him. He's under contract through 2025. They love the guy. Everybody here loves him. Nobody wants him to be traded. He has not said why he wants to be traded. We've not heard anything publicly from him other than some cryptic tweets that first time I've had to analyze lines in a rap song after 45, in my 45th year. And so I've said all along that at some point, Watson and his agent, David Mulugeta, should meet, socially distanced, of course, with General Manager Nick Caserio, Coach David Culley, and explain exactly why he wants out and what he's willing to do to get out. Because if he misses camp in preseason, if we have a preseason, I read where it costs $3.6 million, then he doesn't get paid. If he misses a regular season, his last salary is a little over $10 million, his base. Next year, kicks $35 million. So the contract was told he wouldn't get it. But if he came in for like 4 games, he could get credit for the season. So that would make it scorched earth ugly, like James Harden's exit out of Houston, in which he showed up late. He was out of shape. He looked like he should be playing for the Texans. He played terribly. He didn't put out much effort. Then he did a Zoom call in which he ripped the team. He got traded to the Nets the next day. And we could see Harden doing that after watching him for years. I do not see Watson doing that. But my opinion, guys, is this. If the draft comes and it's supposed to be a good draft for quarterbacks, the only team I believe that you should try to trade with is the Jets, because it's the only team you can be guaranteed of getting the second best quarterback prospect. And I'm pretty sure it wouldn't be Justin Fields because he's represented by Watson's agent. So maybe it's Zach Wilson. And a lot of people are saying Miami. If you make the deal with Miami, Nick Caserio, who's in charge of everything here on personnel, the Patriots scouted quarterbacks last year because they needed one. And if Nick Caserio thought Tua Tagovailoa was franchise quarterback, hey, make the deal with the Jets. Get back your 3rd overall pick. But the problem with picks beyond that, the Jets are pretty good. They may be low picks. I'm sorry, the Dolphins.
Dolphins, yeah.
If you go with the Jets, you get the Jets, say 1-2 this year, 1-2 next year. And they still got the ones they got from the Seahawks. So the Jets would not be bereft of draft choices. And that just makes so much sense to me. If they wanted to throw in Sam Darnold to start until the 2nd overall pick was ready, sure. But it's got to include more than 2 1s and 2 2s and Darnold. It's got to hurt. This is an unprecedented situation. Never in NFL history is a quarterback coming off his best season in every statistic who's under contract through 2025, who is a pillar of the community, been available in the trade. And it may be a moot point, but it's fun for podcasts, talk shows, sports writers. Everybody loves speculating on it.
John, what do you think the deal's going to be? What do you think the Texans would take to trade Deshaun? 4 ones? I've been hearing. Is that
you can't do that? You can't go. You could with the Jets, but you can't go beyond 3 years on a trade. And if it was the Jets, they could say, okay, we want both ones this year. We want both ones next year. We want both twos. And you can ask for anything you want. And it's got to, if they trade Watson, and they're getting killed because he wants to be traded here, fans and media have not turned on Watson. They've turned on the Texans for putting him in this situation. And reportedly, the Jets are on his list of teams. Reportedly, Robert Saleh, who was here for 6 years, he wanted Robert Saleh to be one of the coaches interviewed. He never met Robert. He admitted he didn't know Eric Bieniemy, but he'd heard good things about him. And they interviewed Bieniemy in a Zoom and not interview Robert. It was Nick Casario's baby. He came to town and he had his list of coaches. He had 5. He interviewed 7, and he hired David Culley. Nobody else. It took a hell of a risk to hire David Culley. Could look like a genius, or he could get him fired in about 3 or 4 years. So whatever a team gives up for Watson, it's got to be painful. And they're going to have to think, do we really want to do this? But the thing is, say the Jets had to give all that up. They don't have to worry about a quarterback for 10 to 15 years. You can get back, say, another Quentin Williams. You get back your second and first round picks in 3 years. But you got your quarterback for another 10 to 15 years. And the way guys are talking about playing into their 40s, you might have him for 20 years.
Yeah, I mean, we hear so much, and again, this is John McClain, the legendary Houston NFL reporter for the Houston Chronicle. We hear so much about this list, right, about Deshaun Watson, these teams he would approve a trade to or teams he prefers to go to. Have you heard, whether it's through the Texans or through the Watson team, is there A, really a list, and B, which teams have you heard that are on there? Would a deal, let's say, with the Jets, let's say the Jets aren't on this list, right? He doesn't want to play for them for whatever reason. If the Jets and Texans do finally get to talk and they agree to a trade, let's 3 ones and a player or whatever, and they go to Watson and say, you want out of here so bad, the Jets you don't want to play for, it's the Jets or nothing. Do you think Deshaun okays a deal to the Jets?
Well, it would cost more than 3 ones and a player. I can guarantee you that. But he has a no trade clause. That's the key. I've seen reports that the Jets are one of the teams on his list. And right away, I'm thinking, well, why? Other than they're in the media capital of the world. And Robert Saleh, I think if, say, the Jets weren't on his list, I'd do everything I could to get Robert to talk to him, because Robert would impress the hell out of him, because Saleh impresses the hell out of everybody when he talks to him. His players love him. He was one of the guys, at one point, he was my favorite guy to get to come back here. And they never even interviewed him.
Right.
And so I think that could be that way. Could be. I think they need to be transparent. Say they asked for the Jets for something preposterous and the Jets said no. They probably should tell people, okay, this is what we asked for. They said no. We're not going to give him away for anything less than the greatest deal in history. People keep talking about the Herschel Walker trade. When Jimmy Johnson traded Herschel Walker for a bunch of veterans, he could not disclose, based on the deal, that if he cut him, he got number 1 picks. He's talked about that. So at the time, they're like, okay, you give up your great running back, a pillar of your team in the community, for a bunch of guys like this. Why? And Jimmy said he was dying to tell people, and other than his staff, we cut these guys, we're getting number 1 picks. And that's what he did, and turned out to be the greatest deal in NFL history. But this one, on paper, would have to be the greatest trade, whether it worked out or not. 50% of the number 1 picks in the league don't work out. They end up getting traded or signing somewhere else. So whatever the Texans get with the Jets, they got to go in thinking, okay, only half of this is going to work out. And I see reports. I've had talk shows, podcasts from every city that needs a quarterback, with people trying to get me to say, Yeah, I think he'd go to Carolina. Yeah, I think he'd go to San Francisco. They don't want Teddy Bridgewater. They don't want Jimmy Garoppolo. They want a guy that guarantees them a quarterback.
Mhm.
And they could maybe Tua, maybe Nick Casario loves Tua, and they get him and some others from the Dolphins. But I've been saying all along, I don't know. They say they're not going to trade him. Maybe they won't. Maybe we'll be talking about this in October before the trade deadline. The Jets and other teams still want him, and they think it's gotten so ugly that they're going to deal him then, which would be ridiculous when you could have dealt him now or before this draft and known what you're going to get. But it just makes more sense if you're convinced you've got to make a trade, and that you start with the Jets. Maybe the Jets go with Sam Darnold, but I'm just guessing that Robert Saleh, Woody Johnson coming home, Joe Douglas, this would be a trade for the ages. He'd be the best quarterback since Joe Namath.
Uh-huh.
He'd steal the Giants' thunder, and he would dominate the back pages and the talk shows. And that's why to do it, you're going to have to open up a wrist and bleed to pull that off.
Uh-huh. You sound like
Hey,
a real
John.
fan, John.
Yeah, he does. John, we really appreciate you. We really appreciate you on the show.
My pleasure, guys. Anytime.
And everyone watching the stream, make sure you like the stream and you subscribe to the uSTADIUM live channel. John, I wanted to ask you something now. I saw you previously, you just mentioned Sam Darnold as somebody potentially that the Texans would acquire with the trade with the Jets. Do you think that's feasible? And is Sam Darnold someone that you think on the open market or someone that is available for the Texans that they'd be interested in bringing in Sam Darnold and doing what you said, which is actually ironically what I said about a week ago and people called me crazy, which happens more often than not. But bring in Sam Darnold and take a quarterback with the second pick and have the quarterback sit for a year. Do you see that scenario playing out? It makes perfect sense to me because you up Darnold's stock and then you have the guy behind him at 2 waiting for a year. What do you think about that? Do you still
I have no idea what they're going to do, but Josh McCown is here, and you guys will know this better than me. I'm told that Darnold played his best when McCown was on the roster and serving kind of a player coach. And then when McCown left, Darnold hadn't been as good. I remember Darnold's rookie year. Texans played up there in December on a Saturday, and the Texans won, and Darnold played great.
Uh-huh.
I remember all the media, the writers talking after the game, man, that kid looked good. This is why they got him. And then for circumstances, talent, injuries, he hadn't been the same. I know Bill Parcells has been very high on Sam Darnold. So there's a reason he was drafted when and where he was. There's a reason he's been able to play some really good games. And it's not like he forgot how to play quarterback. So the team that gets him could get something out of him. Problem is, you're only guaranteed for one season. Do you want to pick up a fifth-year option? Say you make the deal before the draft, and then in May, you got to decide to pick up that fifth-year option. Why would you do that if you took a quarterback second overall? So you'd maybe trade him at the trade deadline to a team that had a quarterback got hurt, who'd be willing to pay him a big contract, even though they could lose him after that season. So there's a lot that goes into a Darnold decision. And I don't know what Joe Douglas thinks, but anytime there's a new coach coming in, and you guys know, if you use a first-round pick, especially a high first-round pick on a quarterback, it gets everybody excited.
Uh-huh.
People talk, it's almost unfair for him to be the backup because everybody's going to want him to play. And so that would create a lot of excitement if they didn't get Watson, if they took that quarterback second overall. I think if they did that, I'd trade Darnold and sign some other veteran till he was ready, because he might be ready when the season starts, like Joe Burrow was.
Right. Yeah. So, all right. So we know where we're at in terms of Watson and his team. We think, he's dug in. He wants out. He says he's never going to play here again. Texans are saying they're not trading him. What will cause the Texans to blink in terms of saying, okay, you know what, we'll start listening? Is there something that Watson, in your opinion, has to do, or his agent, David Mulugeta? Like, is there something Watson goes on ESPN with, I don't know, host A and says something about the organization that's not, it doesn't seem to be who he is. Like you mentioned, he's revered in the city. They love him. The fans are siding with him. Is there something that Watson is going to have to do, or his agency, to really get the Texans to say, we can't come back from this, we have to move him for the best offer?
Well, first of all, Watson and Mulligan have not said anything public. All we know are what sources, unnamed sources close to Watson, tell ESPN and the NFL Network. They don't tell us anything. But we know what's going on. The Texans, the only communication they've had is with David Mulligetta, and Mulligetta's made it clear he wants to be traded, and they've made it clear they're not trading him, and it's a moot point. And the media, of course, won't let it die because it's good for ratings and clicks, and we're not going to let it die. So if he's not traded before the draft, and I think maybe like April 28th, then they're going to dig in. It's going to be a staring contest, and it, I'm guessing, would go into the regular season. And if I'm the Texans, I re-sign A.J. McCarron and start him because they get their number one pick the next year, 2022, and just go ahead and be terrible again and get as high a pick as you can. If they traded Watson, say the Jets not going to be good right away. They're going to take them another year. So if they got the Jets 2 1s and 2 2s for the next 2 years, they could potentially have 2 top 5 picks with their own and the Jets. Their own could be number one. But they're not talking about that. You know, they're not saying anything. Their stance has not changed. My opinion is he's not going to be traded. This is going to go through the offseason, through training camp, preseason, into regular season. And it's going to get really ugly. And I do expect at some point Watson to sit down with ESPN and the NFL Network. And usually, if you want to talk your way out, you have to attack an owner. And so I can't, knowing what a good guy Deshaun is and how he never says anything negative about anybody. It's all positive, everything he says. The closest he ever came to saying anything negative was his last Zoom with us after the season. And when he said there's some people here think they have too much power. Well, we all knew he's talking about Jack Easterby.
Yeah.
We're talking about Romeo Crennel. And Jack Easterby has consolidated his power and got even more. The general manager, Nick Caserio, is a close friend of his from New England, and he's his right-hand man. So Easterby's tentacles are all through the organization, and that's the only time Watson has ever, and even though he didn't name him, that he's ever even hinted anything negative about anyone.
So the Easterby and Caserio relationship is a good one, obviously, coming from the Patriots. So there's nothing along the lines of Caserio wants to do whatever he can to keep Deshaun here, as well as David Culley, obviously. But with Easterby and Cal McNair's pocket, or not pocket, hand in hand with whatever's going on, there's going to be no situation where a Easterby is going to be, let's say, fed up, and McNair is fed up, and he starts fielding calls behind Caserio. There's going to be no
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Caserio has in his contract, he has final say on all personnel. He hired the head coach. Cal McNair signed off on it. And the McNair family has never interfered. They put a lot of money in there. Mm-hmm. They want to know what's going on, but they never tell the general manager or coach what to do. That's the way they've operated since their first season in 2002. That served Cal McNair well when they went 11-5 and 10-6. But after that 10-6, Bill O'Brien traded DeAndre Hopkins, and I'm guessing Cal McNair didn't want to do it, but he believes you hire people, you pay them good money, you let them do their job. If they don't do it well, you get rid of them. He fired Bill O'Brien after an 0-4 start. So it doesn't matter when it comes to Watson. He's not going to tell Nick Caserio, trade this guy or don't trade this guy. He hired Caserio. It's his baby.
Yeah, it makes sense. So, all right, so we know where we stand. Both sides are dug in. Well, Texans are saying to everybody, don't even bother calling, right? There's no even, well, we don't want to trade him, but what are you offering kind of calls going on.
None of that. Because as soon as you do that, then it's out all over the country.
Sure.
So they're telling everybody, and nobody's calling right now. They already called. But as you get up closer to the draft, they're going to say, okay, we'll add this, we'll add that. And it'll be interesting then if they ever actually listen. There was a report that they called about Wentz. Give me a break.
Yeah, that didn't make any sense.
They're not interested in Carson Wentz. And so they've been incredibly consistent on this, said publicly and privately they're not trading it. Watson's been consistent. He hadn't gotten back to Nick Caserio or David Culley, the new coach. And so he's being consistent. That's why I call it a staring contest. That's why I think they should meet at some point, like meeting in the middle of the boxing ring. And if you can't work it out, go back to your corners. And this is going to go on for a long time.
John, what do you think it's going to take for the Texans to convince Deshaun to stay in Houston?
I believe that if Caserio and Culley and Tim Kelly, the offensive coordinator, who Watson loves, and Pep Hamilton, the quarterback coach, could get with him. Okay, here's our plan. Lay it out. You know, you played great last season. We've got all our receivers. We're going to keep Will Fuller. We've got our tight ends. We got all the linemen. We need one. We need to get another running back because the running game was 31st. We're going to give you a running game, but we're going to overhaul the defense. And here's the plan. We got this much money to spend. We've got 8 picks after the second round. We're going to try to have 10 or 11. We're going to work on the defense. We think a defense is a 2-year project, but we think the offense and the passing game in particular is going to be great like it was last year. Problem last year, they has played as tough a schedule as I've ever seen. Teams that beat them were 57 games over 500. 5 were in first place. They were 2-8 in one-score games after being 8-3 in one-score games the year before, and they came this close in the AFC South. Tennessee beat them on the last play twice, and in both games against Indianapolis, they were on the 2-yard line of the Colts in the last minute and lost 2 fumbles. So that's how close they were to being better in the division, besides just sweeping the Jaguars. So, and that was because of Watson and the offense, even though their running game was 31st. Their defense, Watt's going to be gone, and whether they get a draft choice for him or they release him, he'll clear up $17.5 million, clear out the cap problem, give them more money to spend in the cap, and major moves are going to come from this organization. And I would just lay it all out for him. Here is our plan. Make it as comprehensive and tell him, you know, this is the plan with you. And that's why I say if he said, no, I'm just not happy here, I'm not coming back, and I know he loves Houston, then they got to get together and decide, okay, what do we want to do? Do we want to force a guy to come back late in the season so he can get credit for his season, or do we want to move on? There's another thing at play here. Union and a couple of agents run the NBA. Rich Paul, LeBron's agent, they dictate so much about where players go. The union runs baseball. The owners run football. And so I would imagine, you know, there's all this talk now. Russell Wilson wants to say on personnel, and that there's going to be pressure on teams. Don't give in. Not the pressure, just we don't want this to be like the NBA, where a few agents control where players go. And, you know, as you guys know, almost every problem you see involving a player is money. And Watson's got $156 million extension. He cried at the Zoom when we interviewed him and brought his family and his Dabo Sweeney and some other coaches in there. He was happy. He was happy, other than being frustrated at losing and finishing 4-12. The last time we talked to him the day after the season, he was pumped about the next season. And then it all started going south based on what we heard when they hired Caserio without telling him. When, in essence, you guys know Nick Caserio very well from the Jets going against him twice a year for years. The guy, there's not another personnel director more deserving of GM job. It's like when Joe Douglas, he turned down several opportunities because he wanted the right situation, and that's what had happened with Caserio. The Texans tried to get him twice and couldn't even interview him. And this time, because of the change in the rules that you can't hold somebody back who's under contract for a promotion, that's how they finally got him. And so I thought the Caserio deal was a really good one. Maybe it'll backfire and it'll be terrible. But based on everything I've heard and read, people think he's going to be a good GM. So I don't think it was him per se. I think Watson, they said he was upset. He had to find out on social media. But when a player wants to be traded and is willing to risk millions and millions, it runs a whole lot deeper than having to find out who your new GM was on social media.
Yeah, it can't just be one thing. Like you said, it can't just be the fact that he wasn't told or involved in the hiring of a GM. I know they went to search firm, right? For the GM, and he didn't feel he was involved. It has to be deeper. It can't just be something where he wasn't the guy who didn't have his input. When the trust issues come into play, and it seems like, right, that's what the Watson rumor is. He doesn't trust the front office, or he doesn't trust the ownership.
He doesn't trust the owner, Cal McNair, and he doesn't trust Jack.
How do you come back from that?
You can't say he doesn't trust the GM and the coach. Yeah. To me, the GM and the coach are much more important.
Yeah.
Jack Easterby doesn't have anything to do with what goes on the field. And the owner, he knows this. He gives them money like he gave Watson, and he stays out of it. So if you have a problem with the owner and executive VP of football ops, that's not going to affect what happens on the field like a general manager and a head coach. But so far, he has not responded to their requests to talk to him.
John, last question here, and then we'll wrap up. And we really appreciate your time. Again, everyone, this is John McClain, historic Texans NFL reporter now for how many years, John? 30 years?
This will be the 45th year covering the NFL.
Oh, my God, 45.
Longer than we've been alive.
You look good, man. You look young. It looks like you got a tan, too. I'm coming down to Houston, by the way.
I can do this anytime you guys want. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So last question of the night. If you're running the Texans and Deshaun is out, let's just say you have to get rid of him, what is the best scenario for Houston Texans fans? What do you want in return? You'd want this, I guess, let's say the Jets pick and you draft who? Like, what would you do, or what's like an ideal situation for Texans fans?
I called Joe Douglas and I said, Joe, you want to solve your quarterback problem for 10 to 15 years? Of course, Joe would say yes. Well, Joe, it's going to hurt. And you've been around long enough to know you can make up draft choices, but you can't get a quarterback like this. And I would insist on, I would start asking for two ones the next 2 years and a couple of defensive players, starting with Quinnen Williams. And I know Marcus may have to be signed to a new contract, but take a couple of defensive starters because the Texans defense is horrible. And then I would draft the best quarterback, like especially for Zach Wilson from BYU, and start the rebuild. And just be open about it. We did everything we possibly could to keep Deshaun, and we're convinced that he was not going to play here again. So we think what is a fair deal. But it's going to be hard for a GM to give that up because, like I said earlier, it's got to be the most lopsided trade on paper we've ever seen. But you'd be getting a player that nobody's ever had a chance to get one like him at 25 years old.
Well, hey, man, that was just great insight. And again, we really, really appreciate you coming on. Nick has been talking about you now for the last few weeks. Every night he texts me about you, and I'm like, Nick, like, go to Houston and hang out with this guy, please. Like, you want to talk to him so bad. He likes talking to you more than me, and I'm his business partner. Can you believe that?
No, guys, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Stay safe.
You too,
Thanks,
John.
John. Thanks so much. Hey, man.
He seemed to, so he was dug in on the fact early on when these first rumors came out, like right after the season, said something along the lines of like, there's a better chance I play quarterback for the Houston Texans than they trade Deshaun Watson. Then as things went on, he started saying, okay, maybe the Jets. And then it was, here is what the Jets should offer. So it seems like there's, and I don't want to accuse him, he's been a great writer for 45 years. It seems like he's almost acting on behalf of the organization in the terms to say, not trading him, don't try. Oh, shit, I didn't know Watson's this dug in. Let's negotiate publicly, throw these names out there, see what like the public thinks about an offer like this. See the backlash on it. And in that conversation, he seemed to go back and say he doesn't think they're going to trade him. So I don't know. I think what is going to happen is either Watson has to publicly say something or ruffle feathers, or his agent has to do it. Look, his agent, David Mulugeta, knows how to get his guys what they want. He was the agent. He's the agent for Jalen Ramsey, who just forced his way out of Jacksonville. He knows what he's doing. This is a very meticulous process, I guess you could say. It's a meticulous process for him to get his client out of Houston and to wherever he goes. I don't know if John, I wanted to hear from John, like, there is no list or there is a list. He seemed to kind of source reports as well. So it still leads me to the fact that nobody knows what the Watson side is doing. And it's just going to come to a point where Houston, there's no coming back from this. Like I was trying to tell him, when there's trust issues with the ownership, you can't fire an owner. You can't move on from like that. Like McNair is not going anywhere. So if Watson's dug in and says, I am not under any circumstance, and I am fine not playing football for this team, I'll retire, I'm good, I don't want to play for this team, I don't trust them, what do you do? And you have to do it relatively soon, because like John said, and what makes the most sense PR-wise too, is you have to give Texans fans some hope, and you have to get what you can for them now, get the quarterback, and start over.
Yeah, totally. I think this is something else that I got from that interview, though, Nick, that needs to be said. If you look at the way that trades happen in the NBA and the way that Dave Mulugeta did with Ramsey and he wants to do with Watson, this is becoming a player. It's starting to move into a player-centric GM model like the NBA is. The players decide where they want to play. The players decide who they want to play with. And it seems like there's almost a breaking point. You can get a sense from John. It's like, crap, if Watson gets his way, then this is going to open the floodgates for all these players that want to go and play with whomever, whatever coach, if it's Saleh or what if it's Allen Robinson or whatever, whomever they want to play with. So it seems like that's where the NFL is eventually going to get. We're going to get there at some point as the NFL. They're going to get there. So
the problem,
I don't know.
Yeah, and he's right though in a sense where the owners are not going to want that to happen because,
of course not.
Yeah, if you give in here. And you let this happen with Watson, a quarterback. It's different than Jamal Adams, a safety, a Jalen Ramsey, a cornerback. You're talking about an elite quarterback at 25 years old. If he can do it, anybody can do it, right? So,
especially with his deal. I mean,
I know he just
locked up. There's a no trade clause. I mean, it's you can't.
But he just got all it takes is an owner like Woody Johnson, who doesn't give a shit what the rest of the league thinks about him. He's a weird outcast anyway. For him to seize the opportunity here and say, I don't give a shit. I'm 75 years old. I got to win a Super Bowl in the next 5 years or else who the hell knows? I'll be a vegetable. I got to seize this opportunity, get this franchise player, give in. Here are the 4 first-round picks, 3 first-round picks, whatever, and go and get the guy. So if you have your little boys club with the Jerry Joneses and the Rooneys and, these, traditional owners who are all on board, you got owners like, Stephen Ross is even in that club with the Dolphins. Woody Johnson is really kind of like an outcast. So this is it makes so much sense for the Jets. And John is right. Like, it starts with that number 2 pick. You hit the reset button. Most likely the quarterback is not going to be as good as Deshaun Watson. That quarterback will ever be as good as Watson, but you buy hope and you sell the fans, look, we tried everything we could. We got a great return. We didn't have picks this year to have a first or second rounder. Now we have 2 1s and 2 2s. Like, you can come back from this if you're the Texans. A team like the Jets or the Bears, I know they're picking in the mid rounds. That's an organization that needs a spark, and they can't worry about what other owners are thinking about. They got to focus on, worry about their team and getting out of the dumps, which they've been for the longest time. So,
I will say, just wrapping up the McClain interview, and then we're going to go rapid fire. So make sure you like the stream and you post your questions, and we'll answer your question right now, Trevor Sherman, too. But I'll just end this with one last point on the John McClain interview, Houston Chronicle reporter for 45 years, and he looked good. That guy, man, he's a sexy dude, I must say. I'm just a cutie, Yeah, I like him. I want to go hang out with him and get a few burgers and beers. By the way, speaking of beers, I'm going to answer a beer question in the comments. So we'll get these questions popping. But yeah, I'll say this: I don't think that there's going to be a staring contest. Deshaun Watson knows what he wants. He is a very sharp dude. He is a very get what you want when you want it. He's an MJ type of guy. He's a Brady type of guy. You think he's going to be in this back and forth like Le'Veon Bell was? No. Or like some of these? No. He will make it happen. He probably told himself, I'm out of here, and we're going to make something happen. So I don't think it's going to go into the offseason. I think Deshaun Watson will get traded within the next month, and it'll be maybe to the New York Jets. But let's get into these questions. Speaking of the Jets, as we speak about them, like 65% of the show, I think Jets maybe even more.
Sherman's not going to happen, Trevor. Sorry, man. I have it.
I'm down with it though. Give me a 2-year deal.
No, he's not.
I would love that.
I would too, but he's a West Coast guy. He wants to win. Better chance, of Witherspoon and Williams, the 49ers corners, than Sherman, unless for whatever surprising, reason that Sherman's market doesn't really come to fruition, which it will. He'll land with a team out west, he's a West Coast guy. I don't see it happening.
All right. Next question. What do we got? Jets Rebellion. Trade Sam for a 1, 3 ones this year, and next year's first and 2 if that. Listen.
4 1s and a 2.
That's insane, but I'm down with it.
I know. So am I.
That's insane, but I'm down. I'm down with the rebellion. Let's do it. We need to get to a Super Bowl. Yeah. That's it. We don't need to worry about anything else as Jeff fans. If we have to trade everything, and Quinnen Williams, I know a lot of Jeff fans want to hold on to this guy like he's rosemary beads, but rosary beads. Rosemary. I'm hungry, man. I'm thinking of steak and rosemary. Yeah, I'm looking at it all, man. But you trade Quinnen Williams if it comes down to it. Sorry.
Yeah, you don't look to trade him, but you don't let him.
He looked amazing. Up.
Yeah,
you don't want to get rid of the next, poor man's Aaron Donald, but I don't care when the quarterback's there.
You can't let him hold up a trade. Yeah.
No. When do you think the first domino falls at quarterback? Who do you think? I think it's Carson Wentz, and I think he's going to get traded to the Bears or the Indianapolis Colts. And I think that may have been done already, honestly.
Yeah, I think they're just kind of waiting on the last few offers, trying to get a little bit more, and then go from there.
Yeah. Do you guys honestly think a team will give a 4 1s or 2?
No, absolutely not. I think he's shooting for the moon. He almost admitted to it. You shoot for the moon, and then you kind of go from there. You never accept any negotiations, Frank, business. Never accept the first offer. So if they say, I want 2 1s this year, 2 1s next year, Quinnen Williams and another, say Ashton Davis, another defensive starter, you say, okay, no, we'll do the 4 1s. We could do that. So, no, I don't think it's going to take that.
But the thing about that, Nick, is if you do say no to something like that and they go and trade Deshaun to someone else who took something – who knows? It's a crazy – the NFL trade market's become pretty wild as you're seeing now. It never used to be like this.
Trade draft picks 4 years in advance. So the Jets are the team with the ability to trade 4 1s in the next 2 years. They're the only team in football – who have multiple first-round picks this year and multiple next year. The Jaguars have multiple this year, and the Dolphins have multiple this year, but they don't next year. And the Lions have 1 this year and multiple next year. But nobody has 4 first-rounders that they can trade in the next 2 years like the Jets. So when, let's say, the Texans say, okay, no, so we're going to move on to the Dolphins. They're offering us 3 1s and Tua. You say, okay, we're giving you 4 1s, and you take Darnold, whatever. So there's the ebb and flows here. So it's not – there's no way it's going to be 4 1s, 2 2s, and 2 defensives. That's outlandish. It's not feasible.
All right, let's go to this one. John, you finally figured out how to join the chat, man? It only took you like 6 shows. Damn, dude. Mr. Progressive over here. Unbelievable. You're not progressive with the tech, pal. But, all right. How many IPAs did I drink on Super Bowl? All right. My mistake on Super Bowl, and this is my mistake many of times when I get the IPAs flowing, is I start with a double IPA. So I started with a 9.1% IPA. Then I followed with a few Corona seltzers. Then I got another 9.1% double IPA. And then after that, I was off to the races. I don't know. I can't. I don't have enough fingers for that, John. But Yeah, it was probably 8 conservatively. Not IPAs, probably 8 drinks total. It's all right. Super Bowl comes once a year, and the Jets are never in it or close to it. So, you think the Jets can re-sign May, re-sign Poole, and get Thuney? And yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
that's kind of what they're trying to do, but I don't know if they will.
I don't think they'll get Joe Thuney and Corey Linsley.
Yeah.
And I think Brian Poole is gone. I think Robert Saleh will look to bring in Kawan Williams, who's another slot corner who he'll probably, just because of familiarity with the system, I think he'll bring him in and let Brian Poole walk. But I think May, they'll either tag or they'll find a way to bring him back. Exactly, Steven. That's what I'm saying. You trade him to the Panthers and the Niners, even if you have to eat it a little bit just to get them out of the way. But I don't think they're thinking that way. Would you be happy? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's similar to Mims. That outside, receiver. Go up and get it.
Receiver, yeah.
Hell yeah, but I don't know. I think the Lions will try and either tag him or bring him back.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, listen, it's been a great show. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. This was great. This was great. And we got one last one. We got to go with the Paisano Scarpacci. Hopefully, you say your name right. It's Scarpacci. If they say Scarpacci, Scarpacci, you're not saying it right. Scarpacci. All right. And your name actually probably has 2 C's at the end, just letting you know, not 1. They changed that when they came over at Ellis Island over there. Just letting you know, Mike. But I think Sam goes for some reason. I think he goes to the Washington football team. I don't know why. I've been having dreams about him, and not dreams, maybe more like just regular.
More like nightmares.
Yeah, nightmares, dreams. Well, if it's not a dream, it's not a nightmare. What is it?
A vision.
A vision, yeah. I guess I've been having just visions of him in the white and gold or whatever the heck.
Burgundy and gold.
Burgundy and gold, yeah.
Sure,
I've been having I don't. The only reason I say that, Mike, is I don't think that that they're going to a team that's in a win now mode are they really going to tell themselves the Colts? We were 11-5. We're going to get Sam Darnold and give him the keys to everything. I mean, isn't that risky? So I think he goes to a team that isn't necessarily in win now mode, has a few years to figure things out. Darnold needs a few years to figure things out, and then you bring Darnold in. I think that makes sense, but who knows? They're
in like no man's land in the draft too. They're not at 19. They're not going to be able to get the top 4 guys. So
yeah,
makes sense. I like Washington too. That's a good call. I always saw him on the Bears too. I don't know. I just saw him in that uniform, and I don't know. It makes sense.
All right, guys. So yeah, we'll take one more. Let's do this TJ Decker. Let's get him up there.
Someone asked in the chat here, Frank, if you live in the uSTADIUM office.
Yeah, I'm always in this place.
He sleeps underneath. Show him the bed under there.
You want to see it? There's somebody under there, though. I don't want to show you.
Oh, good.
There's a kid in the refrigerator. Remember, we used to do a show, Flight 5, and this guy, Brian, actually Bill's in the chat, William Spano. He used to do the show with us back in the day, and this guy had like an obsession with like kids in refrigerators and like vans. He like used to randomly on the show just bring it up and high socks. I'm like,
yeah,
what the hell does that have to do with anything on the show? But
Nick, how interested do you think Douglas is to give up a premium number? Yeah, I mean I think this is a total TJ. I think normally he wouldn't be because he loves the draft. He's a scout, true and true. But this is a unique situation where Deshaun Watsons aren't available every year or every 10 or 20 years. So I think in this specific situation, I think they would do it, especially having a stockpile of picks that he'd still be able to keep a 1 this year, keep a 1 next year, and still, add to the roster. So I hope that won't be what holds a trade like this back, is the fact that the Jets won't pony up the amount of picks it would take. That would be really the only frustrating situation that there could be out of this.
All right, Nick. So that was show 1, man.
A lot of talking tonight. We've been talking 5:30.
Yeah, it's crazy. I might just pull up right now. Spark one up, on the. By the way, we want to give a shout out. Let's throw him on. We got our producer Potts. This guy is the best effing fucking producer in the world. I had to say it. No. He's too good. You are the man, dude. Without Ryan Potts, Mr. Potts,
Nothing
we would
happen.
not have the show that we have every week. He does Timeout with uSTADIUM. He does OT now with Nick and Frankie. He'll be doing shows with other
ties my shoes for me.
Yeah, with other creators. So, Potts, you the man, dude. You the GOAT. You the real MVP always.
Yes, sir.
Enjoy this. Enjoy the Chipotle splash.
Yeah,
Hopefully it's not there yet.
Yeah, I actually got a sandwich.
All right.
Good call.
The Venmo goes to my bank account, and I have some money on my meal plan that I use.
Oh, all right. Smart. I like
See, he worked you, Nick.
Yeah, he did. I respect it.
I like that.
That's
Yeah,
the entrepreneurial right there.
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
Tell him you're getting chips and drinks and stuff, and
No,
let
that's
him know you
Extra guac, I don't even like guac, but extra guac.
Yeah. So instead, you make it $23.99 next time for the guac.
Exactly. Yeah, of course.
Well, that was awesome. I had fun. It was cool to, I know we get to talk about things that Brianna doesn't let us talk about on Timeout. So this was fun to kind of just go off the rails a little bit. But John kept us. I can imagine what it would have happened if John wasn't here, doing an interview. We would have completely gone off the rails. So it was fun to at least do the OT is fun. I like it.
Hell yeah. All right, guys. Well, listen, next week we'll be back on. So make sure you tune in, listen, and thanks for all the support out there.
Yes.
Ciao, ciao.
Later, guys.
Later.